Hello and welcome to another tutorial by Harpy Cloud Solutions. Today we'll be looking at how to estimate your Azure backup cost over a 10-year period. So basically, Azure Backup is used to protect your data, whether they are hosted on premise or hosted on Azure, as long as you have been able to configure a backup solution that sends your data either from your on-premise environment or even the one in Azure VMs to a particular backup vault, then you can say that they are backed up by Azure and they have a cost implication to that. So, in order for you to predict your Azure spend and not be surprised with what you get at the end of the month, this video would help you to understand how to use a Microsoft certified template to estimate your Azure backup cost. So, let's get to it. So to do this, we'll begin by going to this page over here. This is basically the Azure Backup Pricing page by Microsoft. And as you can see here, it shows you where to download the price estimator from. The price estimator contains, different sheets and tabs for estimating your cost for Azure VM backups, on-premise SQL and Azure VM, SAP HANA, Azure File Share, and so on. And if you scroll down this document, it also shows you how to use it. So now let's click on this and download the Excel sheet. So voila, we've downloaded it here. So we're just gonna go to it straight up. All right. So here, this is basically the sheet that we just downloaded, no iterations. If you look at it, you see that they've provided you different tabs for Azure VMs, on premises, backup SQL in Azure VM, and so on and so forth. There's also a summary page here which shows you the breakdown of everything that you have put, for your environment, and then it gives you this, graphical view over here. And though you see, this is year one, year two, year three, all over to the 10th year period, and it just shows you, how your cost is going to be accumulated over time. So now this change log path also shows you like what are the things that have been done to update this Excel sheet. It said it added support for ZRS zone redundancy, that's redundancy, and then added support for enhanced policy. All these things are things that have been added to improve the sheet. So now let's get to the core of the whole. So for this, we'll be estimating the cost of backing up a number of Azure VMs. All right. And for this demo, I have created a an Azure infrastructure to just give us a visual understanding of what I'm talking about. So here you see that there are 8 virtual machines, and I put beside it the use disk for the various virtual machines that are being displayed here. So a total of all these used disks will give me 580 gigabytes. So what we're assuming here, or what we're saying here, is that Commando Bank has 8 VMs, and for these VMs, they have 580 gigabits of data disk being used. All right. So with us having that knowledge, let's go back to the sheet for estimating our cost. So right here, it says size of the VMs that are going to be backed up. And this size is basically referring to a total of all the used disk for the 5 VMs that we saw in that architecture. So now I said that the sum of all those used disks gives us 580 gigabytes. Now the next thing is yearly growth rate of VM size. So this is for each of the VM size, what do you estimate that it will grow by? So, for example, if one VM is 100 gig in maybe today, what is it going to be at the end by this same time next year? What is the growth going to be like? So, I can assume now that for my servers, they should experience a 20% growth. Okay, so I'll just put here 20%. Now, total numbers of VM from the architecture that we looked at, this architecture right here, there are 8 VMs. So I'll just put 8 VMs. Mind you, this is a recovery service vault. This is an icon to represent a recovery service vault. So this is what is going to use to back up all these VMs here. All right. So I'm going to put 8 VMs. So use exclude disk, no. What is expected daily churn rate? So for this one, I will just put, so daily churn is basically saying on a daily basis, how does your data size increase? Does it increase at a low rate of maybe 1% a day, or does it increase at a high rate of up to 5% a day? I'm just going to put that it increases at a moderate rate of 3%. So I'll select that. So the next thing is LRS. Most people use LRS for their backups because it's already serving as a you know, area of second layer of protection. Okay, so most people will go for a local redundancy instead of GRS or ZRS or ARGRS. Okay, so I will just stick with LRS. Right. So now the next is backup policy type. It depends on if you're using standard or enhanced, but I'll go with standard because that's what I'm using. The backup frequency, I want my backups to be done daily. So I want it to be done daily at a particular period of time. So now, how long do you want your daily backup to be kept for? So that means if you back up something today, how long do you want that backup to be kept for? And typically, it usually is kept for 30 days. All right, so we'll just leave that. The retention for 1 week. For 1 week, I would say I want to keep my retention of 1 week for another 4 weeks. That's basically a month. For another 4 weeks, yeah. So that's basically a month. And then retention for monthly backup. I would say keep that for a year. So that's 12 months. The retention for yearly backup. Most institutions have different policies, regulated by law, how long backup should be retained for. Some organizations have the policy to be kept for 7 years, some have for 10 years. I'll just put 7 years here. Then retention for instant restore snapshot. So what this is talking about is how how long should I keep an instant restore snapshot? Okay. What I would say is the best one I would recommend is to go for 5 days. You can also go for 3 days. And here is my reasoning. If you if something happens on a Friday, okay, and Saturday, Sunday you're not around because you don't work during the over the weekend. So that's 3 days almost gone because the thing happened on Friday, you probably didn't notice it. Saturday, Sunday gone, you didn't notice it. On Monday, that snapshot will not be available. So that's 3 days gone. So how do you ensure that even if something happens on Friday night, when you come back over the weekend, you can still restore to the workable version of that application or VM? Is by saying, okay, I want my restore point, my instant restore to be a maximum of 5 days, because even if that happens, you still have Monday and Tuesday to determine it. So I'll just put 5 days here. So it's saying, do you want to use archive? Okay. And I'll just say yes, or I'll leave this as no for now so we kind of like see the difference. Okay. So now this is yes. All right. Sorry, this is no. We're gonna go to yes very soon and we'll see the difference. So leave this as no. The next is the pricing. Now this pricing is for US East. If you're in Australia like me, my my cost is not going to be in USD. My cost is going to be in Australian dollars. So it's important that you convert this to Australian dollars. And I'm not going to leave you thinking, oh, how do I do that? How do I ensure that I, get the right cost? So there's this link here that says azureprice.net/exchange. This shows you the exchange rates Azure uses for their various, regions and zones. So, for example, I'll just scroll down to Australia. So you see here, Australia dollars, and Azure is saying they're using 1.51. So what does that mean? It means that whatever cost that I get, I'm going to multiply it by 1.51. That is the equivalent in Australian dollars. All right. So now what this is showing here is the price per gig, price per protected instance. That's what it's showing you here. But then it's like you have to take note that this is in US dollars and not Australian dollars. All right. So you can come here and try to, you know, change this yourself, or you can just leave it here so that you can see also how it changes over time. Because the thing is, the 1.51 also fluctuates depending on the market rate. So I would recommend that you leave it in USD here, but then in your final version of your, like a final version, like a final file, you can then ensure that you multiply it by 1.51. So now we're done. And what is it saying? It's saying that for the 8 VMs that accumulated 580 gig of used data disk, this is the average monthly backup data in standard tier. All right. For the first year, this is how much you accumulate. And then this is your price. Average monthly protected instance, $160. All right. So then let's go back down to the interesting part. So now it's saying that in your first year, you're going to spend approximately 11,466 US dollars, okay, on just backup. And then it's only what you will get in 5 years. So now let's go down here. So this is now like the detailed estimates that shows you how your things were broken down. So this is year wise. It shows you from year 1 to year 10 how your backup is going to grow over time. So if you're a CSP, this also enables you to advise your customers better or your clients better. And this also shows you like the breakdown in months. Okay, so the top one was in years and this one is in months, so you see it all over to the 120th month, because it's 12 months in a year times 10, that's 120 months. Okay, so basically this is how you can determine your cost for backup of your Azure VMs. You can follow the same concept or for the on-premises backup, for backup of SQL, for SAP HANA, for Azure Files Backup, and so on. And when you come to the summary page, it'll show you like you see now, the Azure VM one is the one that has the blue, and that's the one we just did. So it shows you the growth over 10 years. Like I said, the first year will be 11,466 US dollars, and this will be 104 um, thousand US dollars in the 10th year. So I hope you got the idea of using this tool. All right. So I also said if I put archive, what's the cost going to be like? Let's switch to yes for archive. All right. So remember when it was no, our price was 11,000. But now that I have switched to archive, our price has reduced to 9,000 US dollars. Let's go to the summary page again. This price that was 104 has now reduced to 37 $37,000 US dollars in 10 years. So you can see that it will show you that archiving your data is definitely a cost effective way to go. So I hope this helps you to determine your cost even before you go into a particular solution, and it also helps you to serve your customers better. Thank you, and it is always a pleasure bringing you new solutions here at Happy Cloud Solutions. To learn more about Azure Price Estimates or get assistance in sizing your environment and estimating your Azure spend, reach out to us via the Contact Us form on our website, and the link is provided here, or send us an email at hcstutors at happycloudsolutions.com. It's always a pleasure helping you to learn something new, and I hope to see you next time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's keep this going. See ya.